Hi everybody, welcome to Skylark Lounge. Thank you for coming tonight. Wow, we're only 6 days away now from the Caucus. I can't believe the moment is finally here. We're in the crunch time right now. So thank you so much for being here tonight. This is the last Skylark Lounge Caucus training, of course. They started doing the Caucus trainings here way back in July, I think it was. August, and every single Wednesday from then on until now, we've been having caucus trainings for Bernie Sanders here, and educating people on the crazy process that we have here in Colorado, which is the closed caucus. It sucks sometimes, but we're all here to learn together about the process and how it rolls. How many of you out here, a couple things, how many have caucused before? Ever here in Colorado? One. That's about right. That's about right. I can tell you about 6% of Bernie Sanders supporters have ever caucused before. So the other 94% we're all brand new at this. And some of us have come over from the Green Party or Independents, of course, even 10 to 15% Republicans. That's the awesome, broad, wide range, demographic of people that Bernie is turning over, because we all know how awesome he is, and he stands for so many issues, reaching out to so many people, and that's why we're all here. We all have a certain reason why we're here for Bernie, and now we're educating ourselves on the process of the caucus, how it will run smoothly for you and for your burners, so your fellow burners around you at your caucus site, who will also be educated. Because of programs like the Skylark one here, since we've been doing it in August and July, we're going to be the most educated supporters at the caucus. That is key, so we can maximize the turnout for Bernie and maximize those most important delegates. Who here, this is the first time, who is participating in a political process or in a campaign for the first time ever? No, one. Okay, cool. That's good. Again, Bernie's bringing out everybody, and this is the first time for a lot of people. A lot of people are donating to Bernie for the first time ever, donating to a political campaign. They're getting involved. How many have been volunteering for Bernie, doing phone banking or canvassing? Please raise your hand. All right, well, if you haven't yet, you're joining us at the perfect time. This is crunch time, everybody. We've been the most organized state in the entire country for Bernie, I can tell you that. Yes. It's been huge. Yes. It's like random. Thunderdome. Yes. All right. So we're gonna burn up the state with Bernie Sanders caucus turnout. We're gonna flood the caucuses next Tuesday, Super Tuesday, March 1st, of course. Let's get some of the basics out of the way. Who can tell me what time the caucus starts next Tuesday?
7.
Yes, it starts at 7 p.m. Check-in is going to start depending on the site. They're saying 6:15, 6:30. So we want to get there early. So all Bernie supporters, let's get to the caucus by 6 p.m. Get in line, get some Bernie swag. At some caucus sites, they'll have comfort captains. They'll be your fellow Bernie supporters handing out some water, some cookies, and things like that, keeping you happy and warm inside. Our weather forecast for next Tuesday is actually looking at, it's going to be out in the 70s, I think it is. So hopefully that holds up. Yeah. Obviously, nicer weather brings out the Democrats even more. And hopefully the young vote. That's very important in this election for Bernie, of course. So. I want you guys to turn to somebody around you actually first. Meet somebody who you don't know yet. Shake their hand, ask them why they're here, and why Bernie appeals to them. Have a little conversation for a minute.
Turning in my list. So it went great. I mean, a lot of people are home during the I talked to a few. I'm a big Bernie supporter. I've been there a few times. I've lived in field speech probably about 6 or 7 times. So what about you? I'm here. know Bernie Sanders for 12 years. Every Friday, we get Bernie. I used to listen to him. And he'd always the same thing over and over. And he was like, call it America's senator. Because I wish he was my senator. And one of these decided he's going to run out of everything we want to senator or president be. He's so consistent. So consistent. He never changes his position.
All right. Lots of good conversations going on out there. Somebody want to share what you learned about your fellow burner?
And he had the same message.
Somebody?
It can't be just about me.
Anybody?
It has about everybody. And I'm finally hopefully people will get the message.
We'll let this conversation here. And they're the center of attention over here.
So we have to be about getting elected, getting.
How about you? I'm just going to pick you up. Come up here and talk to me about your what you learned.
I learned Kevin's here with his parents.
All right, so he's going to talk about who he talked to and why they like burning and all that good stuff.
Thanks. Hey everybody. Kevin has been here a few times, and he's come back for the final caucus training here before the big caucus. Yep. Here with his parents, proud Bernie supporter, just like me.
All right, proud Bernie supporters. I heard Obama's name out there a few times. A lot of people got involved with Obama's campaign, and we're back for round 2 or 3. I don't know which one you want to call it. It's funny because while I was up here, actually, I got a phone call from a Bernie volunteer asking me if I was going to be attending the caucus next Tuesday. I was like, yeah, actually, I work for Bernie. I'm a field organizer. And they're like, oh, okay, well, would you be interested in being a caucus captain for your site? I was like, well, I mean, yeah, I'm going to be there helping guide other burners. So anyway, that's kind of fun. So what is a caucus, and what do we need to know about a caucus? Well, here in Colorado, like I said at the beginning, we are a closed caucus. So that means you have to be registered as a Democrat before January 1st, which it was a Friday this year and a holiday, so it kind of fell over onto Monday, January 4th. So if you're here and you're caucusing for Bernie, hopefully you are a registered Democrat here in the state of Colorado. That's step 1. Step 2 is you got to have your voter registration address updated so that you are going to the correct caucus location according to your registered voter address. And how to find your caucus location, you can go to coloradoforbernie.com. Or if you live in Denver County. Is everyone here from Denver County? Someone from a different? Who's from a different county?
Jefferson.
Jefferson County, of course. Which? Arapahoe County? Boulder County. Nice, we're diverse here. There's actually some very important information you're going to learn about all of these counties here in a minute. Each county has a Democratic website, so Arapahoe Dems, Jeffco Dems, Boulder Dems, and Denver Dems. You can also go there to find your precinct number and find your caucus location. So that's very important. Please make sure you know your precinct number and which caucus location that you're supposed to be at next Tuesday. And we're going to be there next Tuesday at what time?
6.
Yes, good.
3.
No. Well, yes, 3 with your sleeping bag and your cake. No, don't do that. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, recently there has been some controversy about something, and I'm going to throw it out there right now and address it. People have been asking the question, can you videotape or can you photograph at the caucus location? And the answer is this. If you are in Denver County, Boulder County, or Jefferson County, no, you cannot. You cannot videotape, you cannot photograph. You will be kicked out of the caucus. And we don't want any Bernie supporters to be kicked out. That is the final ruling from the Colorado Democratic Party. Outside of those counties, they are saying that it's just going to depend on the caucus site or depend on the county. So if you're in Arapahoe County, for example, yeah, they're saying that you could potentially be able to video or photograph. But from the campaign side of things overall, we're encouraging people not to do so. Because you don't have to worry about Hillary supporters cheating or conspiracy theories or anything like that. Because we're going to flood the caucuses with 100,000 Bernie supporters, and we're going to maximize the delegates for Bernie here in Colorado. So they're not going to have a minute or a second to even think about cheating. Plus, we're all human here, so there's human error that happens as well. We have to remember that. So the caucus starts at 7 p.m. You're going to get in line. You're going to check in. You don't have to have your ID, by the way. That's also a big question that people ask. You do not have to have your photo ID. As long as you're at the correct location, your name will be on the list there. You'll sign next to it and say that you showed up. So you'll be checked in. Once you check in, you can go do whatever and then come back, but make sure you're in the building by 7 p.m. And you're going to start out, and the caucus overall, we tell people it's like a neighborhood gathering. So, there'll be 10 precincts or so on average at each caucus site, and you'll be meeting with your fellow Democrats at this caucus site. You'll start out it'll be at a gym or a recreation center, maybe a library, something like that. Most of the time it's a school, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, of course. And you'll start out with the entire congregation together in the big auditorium or the big cafeteria. And how they're doing things is they're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. They're going to read the rules, like just a quick one-page thing on the rules and how the vote will go. And then they're going to give time for each side. So one person for the Hillary side and one person for the Bernie side to give a persuasion pitch. There's going to be some people showing up at these caucus sites that are undecided for whatever reason. I don't know why they'd be undecided at this time. And you never know, there could be like that one person who's like, I love O'Malley. he's not dead yet. We're still gonna... Yeah, he's not getting any delegates. But you never know. So undecideds, they could stay undecided throughout this entire time, throughout the entire process. But hopefully we can persuade those undecideds to be Bernie supporters by the end of the persuasion pitch or by the end of the process and the entire night. So back to the order of how things are going to go. Persuasion pitch. I was told it's like 60 seconds, so about a minute and a half is really what each side's going to get to throw their persuasion out there about Bernie. And so you'll want to pick somebody, and at all of these caucus sites, like I said, we're going to have so many educated Bernie supporters and so many friends of ours that we already know that we've been communicating with and networking with since back in the summertime. We're going to know at each caucus site, like who, remember like with that guy, he's really loud and he's proud and he knows like the issues and he's a very persuasive person. Someone like that's going to step up at each site and you'll know who it is. So we'll have some strong persuasion going on. Robert, did you have something?
It's 1 to 3 minutes.
Yeah. So,
but both sides have to be equal amount. If one side gets 3 minutes, the other side gets 3 minutes.
Right. And it's easy for Bernie supporters because we have so much to talk about. There's a lot of issues to talk about and so many things that Bernie stands for that connects with so many people. The other side, it's kind of boring over there. It's not very exciting. There's not a lot going on. And that's exactly what we see between the campaigns. There's so much excitement for Bernie, of course, and so many people getting involved for the first time. It's awesome. It's going to be like a big party. It's going to be like a big gathering of Bernie supporters at these caucus sites. It's going to be fun. Do you have a question?
I do. Can I bring my American flag? It's like a full-size flag on a pole.
I'm guessing they won't let the pole in. They'll probably look at that as a possible weapon. I mean, I know you're not going to use it. I'm not going to try to do something weird. But if you take your American flag in, I'm sure, there's no way they would probably deny that.
It was at Obama's acceptance.
It was in D.C. and it was in Grant Park.
Oh, nice. Cool. So you can be like, this was the flag at the Obama address. We're gonna win again. Glory to the people. Anyway, so yes, persuasion speech. So after the persuasion speech, you'll go into different rooms according to each precinct. If it's a smaller precinct, or excuse me, if it's a smaller caucus location, maybe it's just going to be within the same room, and you'll have a different table for each precinct. But mostly it's going to be different rooms for each precinct. So let's like take 2 for example. So at caucus location A, we'll call it, precinct 202, 203, 204, 205, 206, 207, 8, 9, and 10 are there, let's say. Each of those precincts will have a separate room that they go into. So you'll have anywhere from, I don't know, how many people are we going to expect into each precinct?
At least 100.
At least 100 in each precinct?
I think.
Yeah, cool. Okay, we'll say 100. So say there's 100 people that go into 202. Say all of us are in 202 and there's 100 people there. So it sounds simple, and it is, because you're going to just simply raise your hand for Bernie in a vote. Well, first of all, what you do at each precinct room is they're going to elect a chairperson and a secretary. The chairperson is going to run the precinct vote. The secretary is going to record it and use a calculator if necessary when recording the delegates, of course. So, but overall, our job is to show up at the right location, get into your precinct room, and when they ask you to go on one side of the room or the other for Bernie and then for Hillary, you just stick together as Bernie supporters and you're putting your vote up for Bernie. So that is what happens there within your precinct room. Is that pretty clear overall?
You don't have to necessarily wait until somebody gets elected. Somebody can just stand up and say, I'm going to be the leader of this precinct.
Yeah.
Do we have somebody who wants to be a secretary? And if you're forceful enough and you're not a Hillary fan, this is what we're trying to get happen so that we don't have the Hillary fans that know the rules of Robert's rules of engagement and everything to overwhelm the situation.
Yeah, so if you choose to be, you could become the leader of your precinct or the secretary, either way. Go ahead.
Can that person also be the person that speaks on behalf of Bernie?
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, that's going to be a completely...
The person that speaks on behalf of Bernie doesn't even have to be caucus in there. They could be someone who's just very, very good at talking.
Yeah, that's another thing too, by the way, good point. Even if you aren't participating in the caucus, or you can't for whatever reason, you didn't register to vote in time, or you're still independent or whatever, you can still attend the caucus, you just can't participate. But you can still show up with your Bernie gear and excited about it, and you can still be a part of the caucus, you just can't participate. Meaning you can't vote for Bernie, legally, of course. So yeah, like Craig said, you can be the person who's given the persuasion pitch if you want to be that person, even if you're not participating. But then when it's time to go into the different precinct rooms and vote, you can't be a part of that, of course. So you're going to go in this room. There's going to be 100 people there. And first of all, each candidate has to reach at least 15% of the vote in each precinct in order to be viable. So, and out of 100 people, you say, 80 people are there for Bernie and 20 are there for Hillary. She just barely makes the viability 15%, by 5%. So if there's 10 delegates up for grabs, Bernie would get 8 delegates, of course, and this is simple because it's out of 100, and Hillary would just get 2 delegates only. 80% for Bernie, 20% for Hillary at that precinct, in that precinct room. So that's maximizing the delegates for Bernie in a very productive way, of course. 8 delegates to him, 2 for her. We want to see that kind of ratio in every single precinct. So that's why we have been hammering out this education of the political process here in Colorado for Bernie supporters to show up in huge numbers. And talk about some history and statistics. Obama won Colorado with a total of 66%. So that was huge. He won with 66% here in Colorado, and I think it was 110 or 120,000 people participated in caucuses in Colorado overall. It's funny because the Democratic Party this year, they're saying, well, oh yeah, we're expecting like 110,000 people to participate. Well, the Bernie campaign, from our numbers and from our experience and from what we've seen on the ground and being the most organized state in the entire country, we're saying that we're expecting about 140,000 people to really participate in the caucuses. So, and out of that 140,000 people, we want to see 80 to 90,000 show up for Bernie. That's kind of what we're projecting, and that's what we're really looking forward to next Tuesday. Again, the idea, maximizing the voter turnout, maximizing the delegates for Bernie. So after the votes taken, the percentages and the delegates are calculated. There's an official government document that the secretary will be writing down these numbers. And so although you can't take a photo of that official document because it's a federal document, take some notes on the side. Maybe in your phone, take a note, or a piece of paper and pen on the side. Write down what they recorded and what you saw take place there, just in case, in the end, if there's some kind of problems that come up. At least you can have them written down and you can have like a bunch of people there who were witnesses to it. So, did you have another question?
So like at that point, it's a good thing, maybe you have a little scratch pad.
Yeah.
And at least you're right next to that person recording, that person
Absolutely.
may not be a Bernie person. Not just so they know.
And that person's probably going to be,
you're watching,
yeah.
Right? And that's probably all it takes, so.
Absolutely. Be standing next to that person who's recording the information down on the official document, little scrap piece of paper and pen, write it down. Don't try to take a picture of it though, because it's a legal federal document and that's a no-no. You'll get kicked out, of course. So they're going to record the results. That person is going to be in charge of getting that result from your precinct to the, going back to like when we were in the general gathering at the very beginning, there's a person who's there who's the chairperson of the entire site. They're the ones from the Democratic Party who will be taking those results and submitting them to the county clerk by 9:30 p.m. I believe it is. So that's how we get all the results in, of course. So that's the process of getting to the caucus early, checking in, being in the general assembly, I guess you call it, or the general congregation with people, reading the rules, the Pledge of Allegiance, the persuasion pitch, breaking out into the rooms for every precinct, taking the, electing the chair and the secretary of each, and then of each precinct, and then taking the vote down, of course, and having the official delegate count written down on the official piece of paper. So, is there any questions on that process?
Don't they also elect the delegates too, the local?
Yeah. So after the, the next step is electing the delegates. You can be a delegate. So delegates aren't just these magical out there votes, they're actually people. So let's go back to the example where you have 8 delegates, the 80% for Bernie, and 2 delegates, the 20% for Hillary. Each side, Hillary and Bernie people will need to elect delegates. So there's 80 people there for Bernie, but you have 8 delegates. So you need 8 people to step up and be like, I want to be a delegate. So what happens is, becoming a delegate, it's actually pretty simple. You just have to be committed. It's a small role. You're not having to be, you're not like some elected official or anything like that, but you're just going to be going on to the next step after the caucus day. What is the next step? The next step is the county convention, which in Denver, for example, for Denver County, it is
March 26th.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, March 26th. That's right, not April. March 26th is the Denver County Convention. So if you're one of those people who are going to step up and be committed as a Bernie delegate, you'll just have to make sure you take that Saturday off and have it available, and you'll be going to the county convention to continue to have your hand up in the air for Bernie, continue to be a Bernie supporter. and be a part of that process. And then after the county convention on March 26th, the state convention is April 16th. Is that right?
I think so.
I can't remember. I think it's April 16th. Kevin, do you know?
Yeah, the
State.
date is April 16th.
Yeah, another Saturday, April 16th, state convention here in Denver. It's at the Belco Theater at the Colorado Convention Center. And again, you'll have to take off that day and be a part of it, be a part of the process of continuing to represent Bernie Sanders' campaign and going into the state convention. And then, go ahead.
Do those delegates have to stick with the candidate that they were committed to that?
No, technically not. When you go, hopefully this doesn't happen for Bernie's side, of course. We don't want anybody jumping ship between March 1st and the county convention on March 26th. We want to make sure we're picking people who are solid, strong Bernie supporters, and they're dedicated to being a Bernie supporter, of course, and being a delegate for Bernie all the way through the state convention, and then potentially going on to the national convention in Philadelphia, which is July 25th through 27th, or something like that. So yes, good question. And again, at the precinct level on March 1st, people could still be undecided. And if there happens to be enough people who are oddly still undecided, and they get that, and they're part of the 15% viability, they can go to the county convention as undecideds. But we won't, we're not going to see that. There's no way. There's no way we're going to see at least 15% of your precinct being undecided still. That's going to come down to Hillary and Bernie. But for practical reasons, for the rules, if 15% of people still were undecided, they would count as a person, as a uncommitted candidate, I guess. So, there's Hillary, Bernie, and undecided, like as if there's 3 candidates there. But again, like I said, it's very unlikely that you're going to have 15% of people representing themselves as undecideds. But again, going back to the original point, if there's Hillary supporters who are going on, say her 2 delegates going to the county convention, they don't have to be Hillary supporters at the county convention. They could switch over to Bernie and be Bernie supporters. So no, you're not like locked into being a specific candidate delegate. So state convention, April 16th on a Saturday. Colorado has 77 delegates that they send to, 77, yeah. 77 delegates that they send to the national convention.
And 13 of those are super delegates.
Yeah, 13 super delegates.
What's the difference? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so super delegates are people who are, how do I say it, like the elected officials. Here in Colorado, for example, a few of them that I can name or remember, Michael Bennett's a super delegate. Hickenlooper is a super delegate. Hancock, yeah, Mayor Hancock is a super delegate. Daggett, Perlmutter, those are examples.
Congress,
And other
senators,
distinguished
governors, and distinguished party officials.
Yes.
Those 4 categories.
Yes, congressmen, senators, distinguished party officials, and governors. They're super delegates. That's the big super delegate number that we keep hearing about on the national side of things. Or, they say, Hillary has, hundreds, how much?
462.
Yeah, 462 super delegates, and Bernie has like 20.
But all those super delegates will be challenged here in the future. They do not have to stick with who they are.
Yeah, right now, those super
They go
delegates.
with the wind.
Yeah, right now those super delegates pretty much mean nothing, and this is historically how things roll the American political process. Bernie has 19 super delegates, she has 462 or whatever. But in the end, when the popular vote, the people, all of us are getting together, millions and millions of people getting together behind Bernie, they have to, they don't have to, but they gotta go. They know that they gotta go with the people. The same thing happened with Barack Obama in 2008, of course. We see the same type of trend, I guess, historically, all the time. And slowly but surely, we have people who are continuing to come out for Bernie and starting to endorse him and represent Bernie. Of course, here in Colorado recently, what is today, Wednesday? On Tuesday, was it yesterday we had the press conference or Monday? Yesterday was a press conference, I think it was, where Representative Joe Salazar, Jonathan Singer from Longmont, Michael Merrifield from Colorado Springs, and a host of civil rights leaders and activists and union workers endorsed Bernie here in Colorado. So it's pretty big. Yeah, that was huge. Yes. Because people have been endorsing Hillary since day one and beyond, and they're just riding the Hillary ship until it sinks, which we're gonna burn that stuff down soon. So we're getting there. It's actually really close. So when we take out the superdelegates, this is another point I wanted to make. When you take out those superdelegates, right now the delegates won at the voting level that we've gotten through so far, the primaries and caucuses so far. It's 21 to 20?
It's like 52-51.
Oh yeah, 50. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 52 to 51, something like that. We're only down by one delegate, of course, from the votes that have been recorded thus far. So, and this weekend is South Carolina on Saturday. The campaign's working really hard on trying to narrow that gap. Hillary's probably going to take it, of course, but we're narrowing that gap down. And then on Super Tuesday, there's a whole host of states that are going to go pro-Bernie, and we're going to maximize the turnout for Bernie in those states, and we're going to maximize those delegates. It's going to be a pretty big day on Super Tuesday for the Bernie Sanders campaign, so including here in Colorado, of course. So big things coming, and the momentum continues to rise. There's a bunch of national polls who have Bernie up by 6, 7, 8%, which we had never seen before a week ago, ever. Starting a year ago, Bernie was at 3% in the polls, and now we're ahead in a ton of the national polls. So that's big steps. Question?
Yeah, do you hear any news about why people are still hanging on with Hillary? Because I'm just I used to like her, honestly, but once I started hearing Bernie speak, I was like, okay, this makes a lot more sense.
I think it's mainly electability.
Exactly.
Most people think Bernie is so.
Question was, why are people still hanging on to the Hillary ship? Yeah, she's mean. She's not very nice. People talk about electability, and they're just now throwing that word around like crazy. Electability, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Bernie Sanders, he's got 32 years of experience. So there's two things. They talk about electability and they talk about experience. Bernie Sanders has 32 plus years of experience as a mayor and U.S. House representative, senator, of course. He's been elected a few times in his lifetime. He's pretty electable. And you look at all the polls, of course, between the Bernie and the GOP frontrunners, I guess you could say. Between Bernie and the GOP clown car, Sanders wins in every single race, of course.
Considerably.
Considerably.
over there.
And on the other side, the opponent's side, on the Democratic nomination, that they don't win, or they win by like a couple points, and that could swing here and there, back and forth, of course. But we know with Bernie, this support's going to continue. The momentum's going to continue. No one's jumping ship on Bernie's side. People are coming on to our Bernie train here. So we have a huge chance here. We have a real shot at winning this. And how do we get that done? That is obviously from volunteering efforts. Bernie Sanders' campaign has relied on a couple of things. Social media, because the national media and the corporate media has continued to block us out. It's gotten a lot better, obviously, in the last month because we forced them to pay attention now. They can't just sit back and ignore Bernie. But social media from the beginning and still continuing has been a huge help. And then volunteering, grassroots organizing. And it starts from places like the Skylark here, of course. This is one example of many, especially here in Denver. And that's what we've been doing. This is the last night of Skylark Caucus training, which is insane. It's like, I know, I came along in like the first week of September here at the Skylark. And they started this back in July, was it?
July 29th was our first.
July 29th was the first caucus training here at Skylark. And TC Bell has been the host for it from the very beginning. In which, by the way, he couldn't make it here tonight because he's working. He works really hard and raises 2 young children, single father, so that's huge. You have another question?
Oh, I did, yeah.
Oh.
I didn't want to interrupt it.
All right, you're good. I'm all right with when people say like, oh, save your questions to the end. I would like to answer your question now and get it done with.
then, well, one thing I was gonna say, talking about polling too,
Yeah.
I saw this, I saw a poll on the internet, and Bernie Sanders had the highest favorability rating of all 100 senators. It was like 82%. So,
Yeah.
you know, you wanna talk about electability, the people in his state freaking love the guy. And I think he's got like a 91% in the polls, for the, you know, for their primary. So
Yeah.
And if you go back for several years, it's the same situation
Yeah.
year after year after year.
Yeah, so
He is
talking
the most
about
consistently
favorability
known.
polls, you know, being liked in the general population, whether it's
Most
amongst-
trustworthy.
trustworthy was the other word I had in mind. Trustworthiness,
Integrity.
whether it's among integrity, honesty. There's all these awesome words that we can come up with Bernie. It's easy to talk about. With the other side, we can't really.
So
We can't just throw those other words out
Try to
from the
tell
other
the
side.
Try to tell
I don't know if they exist.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're gonna get back to it, but like, all right, so you said when we go to the caucus, there's gonna be the 1 to 3 minute
Persuasion
speech. But, all right, and then we go into our rooms, and then, like, what happens in those rooms?
Yeah, in those
You know,
rooms.
Are you allowed to talk to the other
You
people
don't
and try
wanna-
to persuade them, or is it really quick?
You can.
What? Yeah, so what happens in those rooms is what we talked about, the electing of the person who's gonna run the precinct vote and who's going to be the secretary recording it down. That's where you're raising your hand for Bernie. They're saying, okay, precinct 210 here in this room, all in favor, who's voting for Bernie, raise your hand, keep your hand up, they'll count you all on each side, Hillary and Bernie.
So
And
it's
this
just
is
like a
happening, and-
simple show of hands and.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying simple.
We can go home.
It's a simple show of hands overall.
You have to do the delegates, and then you have
Yeah.
to vote on the DA race.
Yeah, so also involved, that's what I was gonna get to. Are we clear on the overall process though of the caucuses and how it's ran? What is your question?
Go over it.
We just,
I'm interested.
We got it.
The history.
Oh, yeah, the process.
yeah, overall the
other-
process and
the other
what
stuff.
we've discussed
You know, like
thus
the
far.
DA race and
Yeah.
then can you
Okay.
speak about like the history of it? and-
Yeah, so the next part of the caucus that we need to talk about is the movement. The political revolution that Bernie talks about, of course, and that he's calling for. Millions of people getting together, and it's not just about him. His obvious hashtag is not me, us. And that's exactly what it's about. So the political revolution, the movement part is when, after you do the vote for the presidential poll in your precinct, and you have the delegate count written down on the official page and it's sent off, we encourage you to stick around so that you can participate in the down ballot, which is your local ballot races. And at the precinct level, you're gonna see here in Denver, for example, the district attorney race, and then your local Senate race. So there's Senate 33, this is Senate 31. Is it Senate 31 here?
13.
This is Senate 13? I live in 5 Points and I'm in House District 8, so maybe the local race here.
It's which of the other, I think it's
Then it has some district house races too, doesn't it?
Yeah, so you have your all of your local races that are going on. So you're encouraged to stick around for those, which I personally can't speak on
Kevin will
specifically.
explain this more when you're done, so that you will not get in that situation where Kevin can speak about it.
Yeah, Kevin can talk about the specifics of who is running and all that good stuff. As a campaign official, I can't talk about the specifics, but I can tell you that there is a second race after the presidential poll, and that is for you to stick around. We encourage you to stick around and be a part of your local government as well, of course. The point is, electing your progressive officials whom you've hopefully met or heard about or read about, et cetera, et cetera.
There's two parts to the caucus, the convention caucus and the assembly caucus.
That's what the second race is. It's for the assembly,
Yeah.
where it decides all the stuff that's not president. Not decides, but it helps decide. There's still a primary. It's very complicated.
So
Yeah.
that'll affect like Colorado cares,
No.
and what those people want.
Those people will be a part of the movements here that are within Colorado, which, for example, yes, Colorado Cares. So maybe you want to look up the candidates who are in favor of that, if that's what you're in favor of, and research who you want to vote for as your preferred progressive candidate. So does that answer it exactly? You're just sticking around after the presidential poll.
I'm interested in like how far this goes back, like to the Revolutionary War. Just, you know, you're not
2003.
way into it, but it's interesting about the caucus and the history. No, 2003.
2003 was the first year that Colorado had a caucus.
No, like in the whole U.S.
I don't know.
I'm a librarian, I can probably find it.
Google it. I don't want to read a book, I just want 30 words about it.
I don't have the history.
The caucus used to be how they decided the delegates before, when it was in smoke-filled rooms, that only 30 people would do it, and they were all power brokers, and people didn't vote on it. People only started voting on primaries in the 60s.
A couple good points that reminds me of that I could cover, of course, and might answer some of your question. Two things. A, the reason why we have a caucus is it saves the money, or excuse me, saves the state money, so that they don't have to have like a mini election, another mini election, but they end up having a primary in June anyway. So it doesn't really save them money. But also the second point is being, at a caucus we rely on the turnout, of course. So for Bernie, in caucus states, we're supposed to be doing better than the primary states with turnout. But obviously we haven't actually seen that yet.
Is the presidential preference poll another word for saying within your precinct room? All
Yeah.
those for Bernie, raise your hand.
Yes.
All those for Hillary, raise
Yeah.
your hand. That's the presidential preference poll.
Yes, the presidential preference poll, that is like technically what you call it. We try to simplify it by saying we're voting for the president, for the nomination, of course. So yeah, that's that.
So it seems to me that like just picking a persuasive speaker that night is like not very, I don't know, like it seems kind of random, you know, like are there like, is the campaign trying to like?
Somebody asked me the same exact question last night, somebody I know and somebody I've been working with for quite some time now.
And this happens before the precinct room.
Before we break out in the precinct rooms, yes, there's the persuasion pitch that happens when everyone's all together. There's not a specific person that the campaign has been targeting for these types of things, but again, like I said, we have so many friends and fellow volunteers who've been doing this for so long. We know within each caucus site, we have the caucus captains locked down in each precinct for Bernie. We know who that person's going to be. Like they're going to be the usual person who shows up and is pretty loud and persuasive about Bernie, and they're passionate about Bernie, and they know the issues and they know what to say. So I think we'll be safe.
Stable.
Yes, they're stable and
Don't let Creepy Jeff do it.
they know what they're talking about.
People that sound too slick, because it sounds
Yeah.
authentic, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, so I think the people, our fellow burners, will be able to decide that pretty reasonably who it's going to be. So
Another reason to get there early.
yeah, absolutely. So is that it for questions?
This is just a small detail, but just because I'm taking notes for people who couldn't make it. What time did you say that the party officials have to turn in back?
By 9:30 p.m. is when they're supposed to have the results into the county clerk. Now it could be delayed. Depends from site to site. They say that if you're not going to be able to get it in by 9:30 for whatever reason, you can, that person, that official who's submitting the results, they can call in and say, well, I need another 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something like that. But they're going to be, getting them in as soon as possible, of course. So the campaign as well, Bernie Sanders campaign, we're going to have a hotline up. We're going to have 10 phone lines that are going to be going at the East office, where you can call if you have any issues that come up. Not necessarily on the democratic rules side of things, because we can't answer for the Democratic Party, of course. But if you want to report results from your precinct and from your caucus site, you can call this number. If you have any other issues or questions that you have the national campaign here in Denver concerning the presidential poll, then you can call that hotline number as well. No, I don't have the number, but we'll have that soon. So, yes, and you had one more question too.
Yeah, can we talk about PCPs for a minute?
Yeah, PCPs.
That's the third vote.
What?
That's the third vote.
Yes. Yes, so after you do the presidential poll and you do the down ballot races within your party, within your local Senate and such. Then the third vote is the PCP vote. Now, this is a difficult term for some people to wrap their head around, but it's not that hard. Precinct committee person is what the name is what PCP stands for. Now, every single precinct has 2 PCPs. They are a small, minuscule official of the Democratic Party, and it's the smallest possible chair that you can hold in the Democratic Party and be a part of the your local Democratic Party. So a PCP, so I'm in 811, for example, and I'm a PCP in 811, and the second PCP chair is empty, actually. So, but a PCP person, they are going to be voted on in that third vote in your precinct.
How long is the position last? Like 2 years?
2 years, yeah. Yeah, it's a 2-year position. You're supposed to attend your monthly House District meetings. So like in 8, for example, I'm going to be attending my House District 8 meetings the second Saturday of every month at 9:45 in the morning or something like that. I mean, if you miss like a meeting, you're not going to like get fired or something. But it's just a small role that you can have in the Democratic Party. And what we've been doing since day one on the Bernie Sanders campaign and grassroots organizing is filling all of those PCPs, those positions, those open positions with Bernie supporters, and so that we can have Bernie supporters that are, inside the party and knowing the ins and outs of the rules, and they're going to be a part of the process on the caucus day, signing in people, being there next to the other officials and helping see that the process is run fairly and ran in a smooth manner, of course. Did you have a question, Chris?
Is there any way, so you'll always get a new PCP elected at this caucus coming up, right?
Yeah.
For a future 2-year term?
Yeah.
And this all happens in the precinct room as well?
Yes. So here we are up to 3 things that happen in the precinct room now. The presidential vote, what's called the presidential vote, the down ballot vote, so your local ballot vote, and the third thing is electing the PCP. So in 811 at my room, I'll be like, I'm a PCP. I would like to be elected again to continue being a PCP, and yay or nay for 2 more years. I mean, cool, great, and then I can continue to be an official with the within the Democratic Party. So, is there anything else, Kevin, that you would recommend we talk about?
No, I think you covered it.
Cool.
I do have a
Canvassing!
Yeah, so I started getting into obviously how and why we're here as well. Not just the caucus process, not just what we're voting on, but the reason why we're, how we're able to maximize the delegates for Bernie is canvassing and phone banking, all of us coming together. This is what we've been doing for so long. It's been amazing. It's been an awesome ride to be a part of this campaign. I was born from the grassroots organizing along with some of my fellow friends and colleagues here in this room and beyond, and it's been amazing. I was lucky to be hired by the campaign in December, and I've been just continuing to work. Whether I was going to get hired or not, I was going to be here. So I love Bernie. That's why we're all here as well. So it's been huge. And also, we cannot forget to thank the Skylark for this awesome dedication. Please continue to support the Skylark from here on out. Maybe we'll have some more Bernie gatherings and parties afterwards.
Is this where the party is next
On election night!
On election night,
Election
I'm trying
night,
to
right
put
here.
together a central spot. I don't know, Robert, if we want to have something here for the southern portion.
There's nothing happening on Monday, we could definitely arrange that.
Tuesday.
No, or Tuesday, that's no problem.
The caucus is on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, March 1st.
There's so many more Bernie people than that. We need a bigger place.
Yeah, we need a bigger place, maybe a more central spot
We
for.
need a Mile Stadium.
Yeah, let's just rent the convention center again. By the way, who went to the rally last week? Was it last week?
I had to work. Boo!
Yeah, well the rally was amazing. If you did make it to the rally, there was 18,000 people there. We had to turn away a couple thousand. But I heard that the people that were turned away, they were still happy. They were happy that Bernie filled up the place, and we had the Flowbots play for us. A couple of guest speakers. It was amazing. And then some of us went to the state Democratic dinner, which was another experience on its own. Completely different from the 18,000 pro Bernie rally. You know, it was like the 1,200 pro Hillary rally and 300 Bernie guests. I'm sorry, we're not guests. They call us activists. That's all we are. But anyway. Yeah. Question.
By the way, you're doing a great job explaining.
Thank you.
The caucus process. So, when you go to your precinct room, I'm going to try to canvass a little bit in my small 3-block radius of my neighborhood. If people aren't interested in voting for the down vote for the Senate, state, whatever that second process is after you vote for Bernie or Hillary, can they go do their stuff after they say, I'm for Bernie and not, I'm for Hillary, I'm for Bernie? That's counted, and then that process happens, and then it goes into another process?
Yeah.
You can, but you don't have to do that.
Yeah, if you choose to, you can leave,
No, but some people.
you can get up and leave
One other vote.
after the presidential poll is taken and officially written down. Don't ever leave though until it's officially written down on that piece of paper. And it's done.
The
But
delegates chosen.
yeah, and the delegates are chosen until all the part of the entire presidential poll is taken care of, and the delegates chosen, voted on, written down, everything done. Don't leave until then at least. But we want, we encourage people to stick around for that second piece and that third piece to be involved in local government and electing your progressive Democrats who are part of the Bernie Sanders movement, of course, and what he calls for.
People have to go home and take care of their kids.
Yeah, some people have other obligations and maybe they can barely make it there just for the presidential poll, and they're making some kind of sacrifice, work, kids, whatever it is, just to make it out for Bernie, because that's the dedication that Bernie Sanders supporters have, of course. There is no childcare on site, by the way. The Democratic Party, by the way, the Democratic Party at each site, they have to be out of there by 9 p.m. So this process will not go past 9 p.m. hopefully, because the Democratic Party can't afford to be into these buildings past 9 p.m. Literally can't afford it, so, yes.
So people cannot bring their children with them?
Yes, yeah, you can bring your children with you, yes.
They just can't vote.
Yes, they don't get like half a vote or anything. No, but you can bring your
They should
children
be
with
able
you.
to vote, it's their future.
I know, right? You're voting for their future.
And the buildings are ours. Why can't we keep them open?
Right, exactly. You pay for those things.
Yeah.
So get involved. This is the last push for Bernie. You have signed up with us tonight to be here, and you signed in, letting the campaign know that people are, yes, still starting up for events. We're still on board. And we're going to be here till the very end, of course. Bernie says it's going to be a 50-state race. It's going to come down to the very end. Super Tuesday is going to be huge for us overall. Like I said, the handful of states were, us obviously in like Vermont, we're like plus 80% or whatever.
Colorado, Minnesota.
Yes, Colorado, Minnesota, Oklahoma. We're making way in Alabama. Massachusetts is starting to come around. Alaska, we're like plus 17, 18%, something like that. Huge numbers there for Super Tuesday. It's going to be great. So that is all that I have. I'm going to leave you with two things: ColoradoForBernie.com and also BernieSanders.com/events. And that's where you can find the local events going on in your area and get involved, right, starting tomorrow. And by the way, if you're in House District 2 or House District 8 here in Denver, I'm going to be continuing to post up at Pablo's Coffee at 13th and Pennsylvania. Tomorrow's Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to be there every single day between noon and 5. We're launching canvases. We're doing phone bank training, and we're getting things done. People are coming in and out. And yeah, I think that's about it. Just get involved. Do some canvassing in your neighborhood. Do some phone banking. You can phone bank from home, or you can join a phone bank party. I think that's all we need to cover. Is there anything else that you guys would recommend, Kevin? And thank you, Robert. Robert's been co-hosting, I guess. We can call him co-host, right? Robert's been co-hosting this since day one as well. So big round of applause for Robert. Big round. Thank you. Yeah, very happy to be here in place of TC. He's been doing an awesome job. And thank you to Kevin as well. He's been filling in for TC from time to time, and he's been a huge, a huge part for this campaign as well. So thank you all for coming. Get involved and continue to feel the burn. Robert's got an announcement.
I just finished talking with Marilyn at the Mercury Cafe, and so Tuesday night at the Jungle Room at 9:15, the Jungle Room will be available for us to celebrate the Caucus events.
Where is it?
At the Mercury Cafe, which is California and 23rd, and also there's so what? $21.99 California, 22nd. California. And also upstairs, it will be a blues show going on, and anybody who says that they're a Bernie fan will be able to get free admission upstairs to the Mercury Cafe.
Oh, that sounds like a good night.
Robert, Robert?
Yes, and we would like to explain this down ticket a little bit more about how to get your candidate of choice for DA elected on Caucus Day. This is Kevin Foster.
Thanks, Robert. Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Foster. I'm House District 2 captain. And I come up and do this here once in a while. I also do a caucus info session on Monday nights at 6 p.m. at Pearls. Pearls used to be Beauty Bar. It's 13th Avenue between Washington and Pearl. We're going to do our very last one next Monday. That's night before caucus night. We're calling it Caucus Cram Session. So any of you who want a rehash of this, or if you've got friends who haven't stopped by yet, please encourage them to drop by. I haven't got any flyers, but again, it's going to be 6 p.m. next Monday. Pearls, which was formerly Beauty Bar. It's on 13th Avenue between Washington and Pearl. I want to talk just a few more minutes about local delegates, or what we call assembly delegates. I'm a volunteer for Bernie, and there are restrictions on what the Bernie campaign is permitted to do insofar as endorsing local delegates. And so Bernie's campaign is here in the state to get Bernie elected, and that's where their responsibility begins and ends. But as a volunteer, as somebody who's not paid by the campaign, and as somebody who cares deeply about the future of the state of Colorado and about my country, I really, we're going to benefit by getting as many strong progressive candidates into office as we possibly can. The down ticket elections are one way to do that. And as somebody brought up a few minutes ago, it's really tempting on a night like caucus night, which is going to be long, drawn out, stressful, confusing. It's not the way that anybody really wants to spend their Tuesday night. But it's our civic duty, so we're going to be there. And what we're encouraging all our Bernie supporters to do is to be there for the whole meeting. Jordan touched on this. There's two sets of delegates that we're going to be picking on Tuesday. There's the convention delegates and there's the assembly delegates. Convention means just presidential race. Assembly means everything else, or you could think of it as down ticket. So first we have the presidential straw poll where everybody lines up according to who they prefer. It's that non-binding poll. And then depending on how the numbers turn out, some folks might realign. Like if you don't meet that 15% viability threshold, then you might realign. And then you have that binding poll, the presidential preference poll, where everybody's officially counted, the numbers go in, the delegates are chosen, and we move along. And so that's how you pick your delegates for the convention, which again, convention means presidential race. The second process in the caucus, as Jordan touched on, is the assembly delegates. And assembly delegates are selected in the exact same way. There's a straw poll where people line up according to their preference, but it's sort of it's a non-binding poll. And then depending on how those viability thresholds line up, if any individual candidate gets less than 15% of the people present, then folks might realign themselves and then you move to the binding poll where those delegates are selected officially, and then you pick who the delegates are going to be, the names are written down, and you move along. So again, convention delegates, assembly delegates, those are two steps. They're virtually identical, except the first one is for the president and the second is for down ticket. Here's the big distinction. The convention delegates are going to be selected. They're going to go on, and they're going to move to they're going to go to the county convention, and all they're going to do is talk about the president. Again, convention means president and nothing else. Assembly delegates are not just going to be selected on the basis of a single candidate. The assembly delegates, that second step of the process, they're actually going to be doing more than one thing. Depending on what part of the state you're in, for example, here in Denver, in my precinct, I can tell you that our assembly delegates are going to be picking not just the Denver district attorney, which is the highest contested race in our part of the state. They also might be, they're also going to be weighing in on state senators, state congressmen, the CU Board of Regents is another one, and depending on what part of the state you're in, there's multiple down-ticket elections that these assembly delegates are going to be weighing in on. But how these assembly delegates are chosen is not on their preference on all those different down-ticket candidates. They're just chosen on the basis of a single race. And the way it's worded in the caucus rules, and the way it happens is you, the preference poll, the question that is asked to the caucus goers when you line up to pick assembly delegates is based on the highest contested race in the state. So in my part of town, that is the Denver district attorney. And so there are 3 candidates running for Denver district attorney on the Democratic ticket: Michael Kerrigan, Beth McCann, Kenneth Boyd, and then of course, as Jordan touched on, you always have the option of undecided. So undecided is treated like a person. So there's actually, you're gonna have 4 options in that assembly delegates preference poll. Again, it's Kerrigan, McCann, Boyd, and undecided. Now, just to show of hands, just an informal straw poll here in the room. Raise your hand if you know who Michael Kerrigan is. Okay, we got 2, oh no, we got 3, okay. And nobody else knows who Michael Kerrigan is? He's running for Denver District Attorney. Okay, how about Beth McCann? Okay, we got 1, 2, okay. So, if we were to have the caucus right this moment, and let's just say hypothetically, I know Chris is yelling at me because he's not from Denver, he's from Lakewood. So let's just say, hypothetically, that we all had the caucus right now. Would you caucus for McCann, Kerrigan, Boyd, or would you be undecided? Raise your hand if you'd be undecided right now. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so undecided is in the majority. And you folks are the most active Bernie supporters, I think, in this area because you're actually here on a Wednesday night when you could be doing lots of other stuff, right? There's a whole lot more other people who are going to show up to your precinct caucus who are way less motivated, way less proactive about this election than the folks in this room. And so you can bet that those folks are also going to be undecided. So now it turns out that I'm just going to talk about the Denver race here. It's not applicable to everyone in the state. But it turns out this race is a contested race. There's actually, most of the Bernie people I talk to actually prefer one of those 2 first candidates I mentioned, Michael Kerrigan and Beth McCann. Reasonable people can disagree on who's the superior candidate, but just based on those 3 candidates, most of the Bernie supporters that I know tend to fall into one of those 2 camps. And so what would happen on caucus night if during the assembly delegate selection process, we just we break up into preference groups based on McCann, Kerrigan, Boyd, and undecided? Well, it turns out that most likely in many precincts in Denver, we're probably going to see a majority in undecided. And we're going to see a split between a decent number of Bernie supporters who are standing in Kerrigan's camp and a decent number who are standing in McCann's corner. And you know that based on the delegate math, we've only got a few delegates to go around. And the percentages are of course, you got a round, right? You can't send half a delegate or 1/4 of a delegate onto the assembly. And so the upshot of this is that if we all go our separate ways and we all show up to caucus and we all split up into different corners, we're going to divide ourselves. And so the assembly delegates that we elect at our precinct caucuses are going to be split among many camps. And each one of those camps is probably going to contain a few Bernie supporters. What I'm proposing, and not just me, sorry, but the strategy I'm about to go over, as a volunteer, I don't speak on behalf of Bernie's campaign, I'm unpaid here. but I've been active in Bernie's campaign for quite a long time, and I've been at these meetings for 4 months maybe, for quite a long time. Been communicating with a lot of the other local candidates for office, some of the most progressive people in Denver County. And we've sort of come to a consensus. There's a lot of people who have been really active for a long time, and we're suggesting this strategy to everyone we possibly can. And what we're calling it is the Colorado two-step. And I'm going to go over the steps, the two parts of the process for you. And then and that only takes 30 seconds. And then I'm going to just spend a couple of minutes describing why I suggest that you follow these two steps. Okay, so we call it the Colorado two-step. Ready? Step 1 is the convention. Step 2 is the assembly. Step 1, convention. Who do you caucus for? Bernie, Hillary, or undecided?
Bernie.
Bernie. Okay, that's easy, right? Step 1, no questions asked. Everybody caucus for Bernie. Okay. Step 2, assembly delegates. What we're proposing is that you stay uncommitted. And even if you do support, even if you have been doing your homework, even if you do support one of the local campaigns, and again here in Denver, it's the DA's race, so it's Kerrigan, McCann, Boyd. Elsewhere in the state, it's going to be another local race. There may be a different number of candidates running. It may be contested, it may not be contested, but what we're suggesting is that everybody go undecided on caucus night. Now, again, step 1, caucus for Bernie. I'm not telling anybody, do not go undecided for the convention. Do not, when they ask if you like Bernie or Hillary, don't say, oh, this guy at Skylark told me to go undecided, so I'm not quite sure what. Don't do that, please do not. Vote for Bernie Sanders. I want to make that crystal clear, because, you know, sometimes we go over the strategy and folks are like, you're telling me not to vote for Bernie? I don't really understand. No, vote for Bernie. Okay, step 1, vote for Bernie. I'm going to say it one more time. Step 1,
Vote for Bernie.
vote for Bernie. Right. Okay. Step 2.
Undecided.
Step 2, go undecided. And now I'm going to explain why, because this isn't entirely intuitive. And I want to explain the reasons why I think it's important. For one thing, because of the way the delegates are split up, the way the delegates are chosen, if we've got a big room full of people and we split up into 3, 4, 5 camps, and we got Bernie people in each one, we're going to have rounding. We're going to be rounding so that each group might get 1 or 2 less delegates than they might otherwise if we all stuck together. So if all the Bernie people are split up amongst themselves, then Bernie supporters' voices are going to be diminished somewhat because we're dividing instead of remaining united. Another reason, and this is a really practical reason, as we just saw, most of Bernie supporters who show up are really pumped for Bernie, but not necessarily everybody is going to be paying attention to the down ticket stuff, right? And so we want people to stick around, and we're going to encourage people to stick around. And if you meet somebody in line at Caucus who says, gosh, gee whiz, I've never caucused before, and this whole thing is a huge pain in my butt, and I'm just going to caucus for Bernie and turn around and walk out and go home, please encourage them to stay, right? We want everybody to stay. But the fact remains that even if we tell these folks to stay, they may not have made up their minds. They may not know who Beth McCann and Michael Kerrigan and Kenneth Boyd are. And so the majority of these folks who are coming to the caucus, if we can convince them to stick around for the assembly delegates, we already know that a lot of them are going to be undecided. So if we're trying to stick together, the easiest thing to do is to join the group that's already the biggest, which is that undecided group. Now that sounds kind of arbitrary, and that alone, that in and of itself wouldn't be a sufficient reason to advocate this strategy. So I'm going to go on to the third reason, which I think is one of the most important reasons. The third reason is, here's the deal. So for example, in the Kerrigan-McCann-Boyd race, like I said, many Bernie supporters support one of those two, support one of the two McCann and Kerrigan. And many of the Bernie supporters support one of those two folks. And if we all align with one of the delegates as opposed to remaining undecided, let's say that in your precinct, I don't know, maybe 60, 70% of Bernie's people go for Kerrigan. And maybe county-wide, maybe Kerrigan has a little bit of an edge over McCann, or maybe vice versa. Well, what is the district attorney candidate going to do on March 2nd when they see the numbers coming? If I were Michael Kerrigan and I got a majority of caucus goers in Denver, and there were virtually no undecideds in the county, if I were Michael Kerrigan, I'd be ready to sit back and say, oh great, you know, most of my work's done. I think I'm going to win this thing. If we all remain undecided, Kerrigan, McCann, and Boyd are all going to freak out and say, holy cow, like, I thought I was a progressive district attorney candidate. I thought all these Bernie people were lined up behind me. Turns out I don't know who they stand with. What am I going to do now? And what they are going to do is they're going to be banging down Bernie delegates' doors between caucus on March 1st and the assembly on March, 26th, right? That's more than 3 weeks of time that we have to insist that our local candidates adopt progressive policy stances and actually make strong statements about what they plan on doing. As a matter of fact, there is a forum. It is a district attorney candidates forum. It has already been lined up. It is going to be on Sunday, the 5th. Is that right, Robert? At the
Yes.
Yes. So Sunday, the Sunday, not this coming Sunday, but the one after, the Sunday immediately following
I
the...
think it's the 6th, isn't it?
Sunday's the 6th, I think it's a Saturday.
Okay, it's either the 5th or the 6th.
It's Sunday the 6th.
Okay, Sunday the 6th. Thanks, Robert. Sunday the 6th at the Mercury Cafe. And by the way, please stop by the Mercury Cafe on that Tuesday after the caucus. They're just a phenomenal place. The ownership at Mercury is great. They have really been supportive of Bernie for months. We've had multiple events there. They got good food there. So please do support that establishment. They're great. But we've already got this event lined up. It's already happening. It's on the calendar. It's Saturday the 5th. And immediately after the caucuses, those district attorney candidates, they already know about this plan, right? Like the folks who've been planning this out, like it's been in the works for a couple of months now. It's been pretty broadly disseminated. And those district attorney candidates are dying for the support of the Bernie coalition. Because we are the strongest political coalition in this state right now. And if we turn out in force as we intend to do, and if we all do our work this weekend, knocking on doors and phone banking, we're going to be the force to be reckoned with on caucus night.
Who do you
And
support?
those,
Who do you support?
sorry?
Who do you support?
I support undecided. I'll be honest with you, I have seen all three candidates speak at a House district meeting. I am torn myself between Kerrigan and McCann. I don't think that I would support Boyd based on what I've heard so far, but I'll be honest with you, I haven't made up my mind yet, and there's good reason for that. One, because I've been working so hard for Bernie, and two, because I believe in the efficacy of this strategy. I'm going to go uncommitted on caucus night, and in the meantime, I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading about local district attorney candidates because we've got a lot more phone calling to do. But I do believe that we have a really strong, we've got a lot of leverage with this strategy. And essentially, you know, we've already got a forum lined up. And so, coming back to what I was saying a minute ago, we have a forum on Saturday following the caucus.
Sunday, 6th.
Sorry. Sunday the 6th, sorry. At the Mercury Cafe. This is a district attorney candidates forum. I don't know what time it is. It's on Bernie's website. This is a forum solely for Bernie Sanders delegates who have been chosen at the caucus. So these are assembly delegates that we choose on caucus night. And we are going to have we're going to have an exclusive audience with the district attorney candidates, and it is going to be on them to convince us who they should support. Now, a couple of things here. By suggesting that Bernie Sanders supporters go uncommitted in the assembly delegate selection process, I am not suggesting that anybody should not be thinking about who they want to support. We want the very best. We want the most progressive local candidates out there on our. We want to get them into office. Now, if you become if you become an assembly delegate next Tuesday, and I hope many of you will, I'm not here to tell you that following the caucus, there's going to be a committee of Bernie Sanders supporters who are twisting your arm and telling you who to support. No, that's on you. You're a delegate. You're an assembly delegate, and it's up to you to make up your mind. But the difference is we've got 3 more weeks of leverage with local candidates where we can say, hey, you want my vote? Show me why you deserve my vote. You know, me personally, if I'm an assembly delegate and I'm given an audience with Beth McCann and Michael Kerrigan, I'm going to be asking them, do you plan on overturning the urban camping ban, which is one of the most despicable, unconstitutional, for those who aren't familiar with it, right? This is the law that prevents homeless people from being able to sleep in an alley or in their car when people come on hard times. Homeless folks in Denver get rounded up and arrested because they don't have the right to be in the same place in a public space. So there's a lot of progressives in Denver right now who are really angry about the urban camping ban. Now the district attorneys could make statements on this. They both have made statements about the death penalty. We could demand a more strong, firm stance from those candidates. And by holding back, by giving ourselves that extra few weeks and remaining uncommitted for a few weeks, we're just exerting more power. And again, by remaining uncommitted, we remain in solidarity. We don't diminish our numbers. And so, again, the process is called the Colorado two-step. Step 1, vote for Bernie Sanders and the convention delegates. Step 2, remain uncommitted at the assembly level. At that point, all of our Bernie assembly delegates, they're free to make up their own minds. There's no need for everybody to agree on this. And at the county assembly, to take the Denver DA's race as an example, the best candidate will win. And the folks who agree to be assembly delegates at that point will be determining that. Let me see. I saw a question. Just give me one more moment because there's I believe there's another point that I'm forgetting here. I'll forget it. I'll take questions for now, and maybe it'll jog my memory. But I want to make sure it makes sense. I know it's not the most intuitive strategy out there, but there's a lot of people who are getting on this. Oh yeah, the one last thing I wanted to say. We've got this great flyer, and I regret that I don't have it with me now, but I'm printing up like 800 copies of it, and I plan on bringing stacks of it to my Caucus location, and I'm encouraging others to do the same. So we're going to be distributing this flyer while we're in line at the Caucus that essentially, it's like a really simple diagram that explains the two-step process. Again, the what is really simple, like what to do, step 1, step 2, that's easy. The why and the how is a little bit more involved, and that's why it's nice to go over this strategy in person and take questions and answers. And as you may have guessed, like, this isn't something that can succeed unless we get a whole lot of caucus goers on board. And so those of us who are sort of clued in on it and are waiting in line and have those stacks of flyers with us, we're going to be spending that few minutes between 6 and 6:30 explaining it to other people in line who might be interested and encouraging people to stick with us. And again, it won't be that hard because most of these folks who aren't aware of it already probably haven't been reading about the district attorney race either. Ori, did you have a question?
Well, my only question was for these local candidates, do they have to meet the 50% threshold to move on, to be considered viable? Because if anybody's undecided, then nobody's going to meet that 15%, and then do they still move along?
So Ori asked if the local assembly delegates have to meet the 15% threshold. Yes, they do. And so you're asking...
if we're mostly undecided, if none of those candidates are gonna...
They're all drawing 10%, they don't get a single delegate. Undecided gets
that's right.
So what happens at that point? Did you still move on?
Then all the delegates for your precinct is selecting. So for example, I know my precinct is selecting 6. So yeah, if we get everybody in the undecided corner, then yeah, we'll have 6 undecided candidates, and they'll all be free agents. Think of it like as being free agents. That's all it is. And by the way, another thing, not everybody in the undecided corner is going to be a Bernie person, right? Like there might be some Hillary folks in that corner too, and that's fine. That's great. The more of us in that corner, the more undecided delegates we get. When it comes time to elect the delegates, the assembly delegates, when we actually pick who those people are, yeah, we do want to, like we should, we're all going to be wearing our Bernie shirts, right? We're going to be wearing our Bernie pins at the caucus. And we're going to be talking and meeting with one another and chatting before we get in there. So we're going to know who the strong Bernie supporters are, hopefully, when we're standing in that corner. And then when it comes time to pick those delegates, we're going to pick strong Bernie people, hopefully, and get those folks to go on to the assembly and speak on our behalf. And again, another thing about the assembly race is, I've been talking about the Denver district attorney race, But again, these assembly delegates are not just going to be deciding on the Denver district attorney. They're also going to be voting on other things. And so at the end of the day, the end goal of this whole process is not to determine who wins and who loses at the DA's race or any other individual race. All we want to do is find a strategy that lets us get the most strong Bernie supporters into the assembly delegate slots as we possibly can. And I think that this strategy is like a really effective way to do that. And so that's what we've been pushing. All the volunteers in the Denver area and statewide have been really pushing this strong. And so that's the end goal. Just get those Bernie people, as many Bernie delegates as we can into the assembly.
And it's because, like you said, the DA forum, more than just the DAs will come out and try to win over uncommitted delegates because they don't know where they are. So they're gonna, if they know that they're strong Bernie supporters, more lower ticket races are also going to have people come out and make strong progressive stances in order to show that yes, we want their votes.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of leverage with local candidates right now. This Bernie train, like everybody wants to get on board the Bernie train. And you know, we've been doing these caucus info sessions. We've been doing them here on Wednesdays. I do these ones on Monday nights. My friend Rob Gilmore does them on Thursdays down at Bonnie Bray. There's people doing Arvada. They're all over the state. These volunteer-run caucus info sessions have been going for a long time. Way longer, by the way, than the Democratic Party has been thinking about the rules, which are still sort of like loosey-goosey right now. Way longer than the Democratic Party has been running their caucus trainings. We've been running our caucus trainings. And you know you're at a Bernie volunteer caucus training event because you look out in the crowd and half the time you see a couple of local candidates for office vying for our attention because they really do, like, they have been banging down doors, these local candidates of Bernie supporters, because they understand the strategy, they understand the power that we have right now, and especially with this uncommitted strategy, you know, we got a lot of leverage. Questions? Make sense? Awesome. That was easy. Sometimes it's really hard to explain, sometimes it's really easy. So I hope that made sense. Again, I've got those flyers. If you want to hit me up, if you want to print out some flyers yourself and bring in your local caucus, they're great. They're called the Colorado Two-Step. They've just got the really simple, basic stuff and a little image of the dance step. I think it's going to make it really easy to convey to our friends and neighbors in line at our local caucuses. So, is that it? Anything else?
I think we're good.
All right, thanks again. Again, if you want to do one more round of this crazy nonsense, Monday night, 6 p.m., Pearls, formerly Beauty Bar. That'll be the very last caucus training session that I do. And if you got friends, please send them my way.
You're buying drinks.
What's that?
You're buying drinks.
Yeah, I'm buying drinks for everybody. All right, thanks, y'all.
Right. Oh, I do have one thing. I just would like to say, if you're in the presidential preference poll, if Hillary especially if Hillary is not viable in your precinct, if her supporters come over to the Bernie side, take note of who they are and do not elect them as delegates.
Absolutely, because they'll be infiltrating.
Because they will just vote for Hillary once they get to the next level.
Good point. Yeah, get the people with the Bernie shirts on to be your delegates.
You're gonna have to give me a Bernie shirt.
Yeah.
Which one shirt, man? I'm looking for one forever.
You just told me that for the first time today. I'm not a magician.
Double XL.
I do love that one.
Double XL. All right. Where's Jordan?
And so, folks, this is the last of our caucusing training here at the Skylark, but it's definitely not the last of our Wednesday night meetings. We're going to be doing something where we can keep this thing going, where we're going to get the down ticket promoted and just keep on getting this activism going. It may be bi-weekly, every other 2 weeks, and we may throw in a potluck once every month. But please keep us on your schedule. We'll let you know when the next one is happening, or within a couple of Wednesdays from now. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, I make them. Yeah,
Make them, man. Show.
I ordered
Relate
it.
to the campaign, like 10%.
I went to the rally last week. I didn't even get at the door. I just came to find out.
Kevin got the last three, and I totally got the load off my back, brother.
Yeah.
Right on. I'm gonna make more, but I mean, Caucus.
Hey, see you, Kevin.
Caucus is